Greetings, welcome to W8U2 Criterion 3 of SAR, Outcome Based Assessment OBA. The outcome for this unit is understand the SAR requirements of Criterion 3 Outcome Based Assessment. Okay. This criterion is concerned with assessment. One criterion was, the first one was regarding the curriculum. The second one was regarding teaching learning processes. Now we come to the assessment. So, this criterion 3 is concerned with outcome based assessment. Again this criterion, marks are allocated to it, its sub criteria, marks are allocated to these sub criteria, the required processes and the exhibits are all the same for both tier 1 and tier 2 institutes. And as usual we repeat, for tier 2 institutes please check the NBA websites for the latest updates. So, we will not distinguish between tier 1 and tier 2 institutes while discussing this criteria in this unit, but you please ensure that you follow the latest guidelines regarding evaluation. The total marks allocated 120, same for both tier 1 and tier 2 institutes. There are 8 sub criteria. Okay. The sub criteria and the marks allocated are as shown here. So, we have the evaluation of continuous assessment, continuous internal assessment also is called, the assignments, unit tests, midterm tests, etc. Then evaluation of semester end examinations, evaluation of the laboratory work and workshop work, evaluation of industrial training, internship, evaluation of projects, evidence of addressing sustainable development goals. This is a new feature because now the SDG is considered as extremely important in all the activities of the institute. Attainment of course outcomes, then attainment of program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So, we have a total of 120 marks and some of these have been discussed in the earlier units as a part of the general principles of outcome based education. The first sub criterion is continuous assessment, which includes assignments, unit tests, midterm tests, etc. Okay, allocation of the marks 10. So, describe the process of evaluation followed during the continuous assessment to maintain quality of the assessment. The quality of the question papers, the way the question papers address different COs which are the related to the part of the syllabus that has been included for that particular assessment test. So, how the question paper gets mapped to the COs and ensure constructive alignment of questions with COs and hence with POs and PSOs. As I mentioned, whenever we have the course, we need to have the course outcomes and instruction and assessment all aligned to each other. It is extremely important to have such a constructive alignment. So, we must ensure that the quality of the questions is such that it really addresses the COs and thereby the POs and PSOs to which the COs are mapped. Okay. So, details must be available in course files for evaluation by the visiting team. The internal test papers, the dates on which they are conducted and the COs to which they are mapped, all these details must be available in the course files or whatever name you call, course implementation files or teaching diaries, whatever be the name given, it must be available as a record. Alignment of assessment with outcomes has been discussed as I mentioned in the earlier units. So, what are the evaluation guidelines and marks? Process for setting and evaluation of internal semester question papers, 2 marks, and we examine the process, that is how the question papers are set, how they are validated and how they are refined if further suggestions are required. So, what are the model answers that are required? So, do we have some model answers available? Then how are the scripts evaluated, and how do we ensure compliance to the required standards? All these will be examined. Then appropriateness of mapping with the COs, the quality of the questions, what is the taxonomy level if you are following revised Bloom's taxonomy, what is the level of the CO, what is the level of the question, and how good is the mapping between the questions and the COs. So, all these will be examined. So, assessment of the quality of the unit test, class test, midterm tests, assignments, etc., they all will be examined by the visiting team. Then assessment of COs coverage in the unit test, class test, midterm test and assignments. Have the internal assessment mechanisms ensured that taken together all these assessment tests ensure the coverage of all the COs. That means all the COs have been assessed. So, we have the performance data in all the COs that is required to compute the attainment of COs. So, if a particular CO is not at all addressed by any of these internal tests or midterm tests or assignments, where do we get the data to determine the attainment of the COs? So, we must ensure that all the COs are addressed by these different items, different instruments, assessment instruments. So, that also will be verified, document evidence of mapping questions with COs. Then sharing of the post evaluation feedback with students for performance improvement. This is generally considered as a good practice in any teaching model, that immediate feedback should be provided to the students regarding their performance in the assessment items. So, evidence of sharing post evaluation feedback with students for performance improvement. Of course, with end semester examination this may be very difficult to do it immediately, but maybe in a tier 1 institute to some extent it may be possible, but very unlikely that you will have enough time. But definitely during internal tests, midterm test, etc., we can share the results with the students. 3.2 semester end exams question papers, marks allocated 10. Of course, the tier 2 institute does not have really much role in terms of setting the semester end exam paper, it is given by the university. But however, the department can interact with the university regarding the SE, it can make its suggestions, its faculty members can participate in the process of paper setting, and a tier 1 institute is responsible for setting up the SE paper itself. So, what are the process for setting the SE papers and their evaluation to maintain the quality of the assessment, which includes construct alignment of questions with COs and thereby with POs and PSOs. So, we must ensure that COs and assessment items are constructively aligned. As we keep saying, one principal feature of the outcome based education is that course outcomes, instruction and assessment, all these are aligned to each other. So, the question paper must be validated to ensure that such a construct alignment is present. Then the details must be kept in course files for evaluation. So, the evaluation guidelines, process for setting and evaluation of semester and exam question papers 3 marks, then quality of questions, appropriateness of mapping with COs 5 marks. This will be done by the visiting team by looking at the available evidence, and then it is a judgment of the visiting team. Okay. Transparency of the post evaluation process, are the students allowed to have a look at their answers if they have any queries regarding the marks that they obtained. Does the teacher share the results and their analysis with the students? Does the teacher provide a feedback to the students? Not all these may be possible because of certain problems with the regulations, but what is the extent to which the entire post evaluation scenario is maintained as a transparent scenario. So, evidence of transparency of post evaluation process will be examined by the visiting team. As we mentioned, Tier 1 institutes have much greater freedom and responsibility in terms of SCE, but Tier 2 institutes have a limited role. Transparency in the post evaluation process includes necessary access to the results for students following a well defined process. Nowadays, many of the universities are permitting even Tier 2 institute students to have access to this information, following of course a due process. So, what is the process and what is the extent to which students are able to access the results following that process. Then the next is evaluation of the laboratory work and workshop. This is both continuous internal evaluation as well as end semester examination or semester end examination. So, marks allocated 10, provide details of the rubrics used to assess learnings in laboratories and workshops, linking with COs and POs and PSOs targeted. So, in the laboratory work there are many things other than simply the results, the quality of the teamwork, the attention they are paying to the interpretation of the data, the sustainable development goals that are being met by their open ended experimental activity in the laboratories, all these need to be assessed. So, the department can develop appropriate rubrics, share the rubrics upfront with the students, so that they know the importance of all these things, and then we must have the details of these rubrics and their administration. So, evidence of student assessment through these rubrics to be kept in course files for evaluation by the visiting team, and they need to be developed to assess outcomes like, as we mentioned, communication, collaborative work, ethics, etc. The relevant POs and PSOs need to be identified and recorded in the course file, and the evaluation would extend to the POs and PSOs. These rubrics must be shared upfront with students, that is extremely important. So, evaluation of experiments conducted in workshops, laboratories, 5 marks. Then use of rubrics, 5 marks. Notice how important it is. So, evidence of rubrics developed and used for assessing student performance during the workshops and laboratories. You must ensure that the rubrics are well developed and they are validated and they are shared upfront with the students. And of course, the regular evaluation of experiments conducted in the workshops and laboratories is done based on the evidence that we provide. Then evaluation of industrial training internship. Again, this is both continuous during the entire semester, in semester evaluation, as well as semester end evaluation. Both are included here. Evaluation of industrial training and internship. Again, marks are allocated 10. So, provide details of rubrics used to assess learning in internships, industrial training. Notice that this also requires appropriate rubrics. They must be developed with care, they must be validated, they must be shared upfront with the students, and these rubrics must be used to assess the learning, and you must also link them with POs and PSOs targeted, that is the industrial training and internship, how they are mapped with which specific POs and PSOs. So, this linking also must be examined, and the rubrics must cover the assessment of the linked POs and PSOs. So, evidence of student assessment through rubrics must be kept in the course files for evaluation. And as with laboratories also, the items which are assessed using the rubrics can be quite elaborate, but some of them include communication, collaborative work, ethics, sustainable development goals, etc. Okay. Of course, we must identify relevant POs and PSOs. Again, these rubrics must be shared upfront with students. In general, whenever we have any assessment mechanisms, they must be shared upfront with the students. That is a fair practice. So, the guidelines are relevance of internship industrial training, what are the POs and PSOs to which this activity is mapped, and how the attainment of those POs and PSOs is computed, and what kind of rubrics are provided. These are all used as evaluation guidelines. So, relevance 4 marks, so documentary evidence of internship industrial training and its relevance in terms of the POs to which it is mapped. Then rubrics 6 marks, evidence of rubrics developed as well as used for assessing the student performance during internship industrial training. Then we get to evaluation of projects. 20 marks are allocated to this, and you must provide details of rubrics used to assess learnings in projects, and you must link them with POs and PSOs. Again, the things that are evaluated by the rubrics could be quite vast. So, they could include communication, it could include even written communication, because the students are supposed to write a project report and they are supposed to make a presentation. So, oral skills also are important. So, communication, written as well as oral, then collaborative and teamwork and ethics in terms of active participation of the entire team in the project work, then project management skills in terms of scheduling, time management, resource management, and in terms of preparing proper schedules, adhering to them, then sustainable development goals. All these need to be assessed, and relevant POs and PSOs need to be linked, and rubrics must look at all these aspects. So, it does take considerable effort by the department to come out with balanced rubrics which take care of all these aspects. But this is an effort well spent, because they will motivate the students to engage in the project work with much greater seriousness, and all this must be maintained in the course files. So, evidence of student assessment through the rubrics must be maintained in the course files. Visiting team will look at all these things. So, the evaluation would be rubrics used for assessing various factors, including complexity, cost, relevance to the environment, sustainability, etc., 10 marks. Then rubrics used for assessing the teamwork, communication and use of project management concepts, etc., 10 marks. It is not that only these 3 items are there, all these are included in the rubrics. So, these and related issues are all examined, how well the rubrics assess all these items. So, the rubrics are examined by the visiting team for their comprehensiveness, for their clarity, and you must also ensure that they are really being used. Then an extremely important one in the light of the importance given to SDGs in the present plans, evidence of addressing sustainable development goals SDGs, 10 marks are allocated. Provide details of student work carried out to meet the sustainable development goals. What kind of activities the students can engage in? It could include research work or project work, or it could include activities in nearby communities under the guidance of appropriate faculty, or it could be participation in the activities undertaken by the department as a consultancy work. So, there are a variety of means by which the students can participate and contribute towards the SDGs. So, evidence must be in the form of a portfolio to be made available during the visit. So, we must have a evidence, documentary evidence of their participation as well as the evolution over time. Over a period of time, how the activities have been changing and how the participation by the students has been getting promoted, so that there is an increasing participation, and what has been the effectiveness of their participation. All these must be available as evidences, either it could be photographs or it could be reports or it could be feedbacks from the stakeholders, and they all must be maintained either in a portfolio or e-portfolio. As an electronic document also one could maintain it. So, such a portfolio is a curated collection of evidence that showcases a learner's achievements. It is curated because the faculty also has allocated to ensure that it is consistent and well maintained. So, it is a curated collection of evidence that showcases a learner's achievements, skills, reflections and growth over time. That is very important. The students must reflect on the activities that they have undertaken, and they must reflect on the lessons that they have learned, and they must reflect on the importance of these activities. So, all these are captured in the e-portfolio or a regular portfolio. It is both a learning tool and a presentation tool. This process of maintaining the portfolio itself is a great learning experience for the students. It is also a great presentation tool if you want to present it to another external member, the activities that you have undertaken in this line. This is an excellent presentation tool. So, a portfolio is both a learning tool as well as a presentation tool. Okay. Again, it is discussed in a related NPTEL course called Instruction for Good Learning. So, evidence of understanding the SDGs, 10 marks are given. So, the student activities through course work, research work and project works or other activities and e-portfolio, these are all examined by the visiting team, or a regular portfolio. These are examined by the visiting team, and the marks are 10. Then two important aspects of outcome based education discussed in detail in the earlier units on the general concept of outcome based education: attainment of course outcomes, attainment of POs and PSOs. So, 3.7 is concerned with attainment of COs, course outcomes. So, this criterion is concerned with CO attainments. What is the process followed to compute the attainment of the COs? A clear, well defined process must exist, and the implementation of the process must be recorded. So, this process, a key feature of OBE, we have discussed in the earlier units. Total marks allocated, the sub criteria and allocation of marks to these sub criteria are all same for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes. First, we must describe the assessment tools and processes used to gather the data for the evaluation of the course outcomes. What is the data that is collected to compute the attainment of COs? It could be internal tests, midterm tests, it could be assignments, it could be field works, and what is the periodicity of all these instruments, how often they are administered, and what is the relative weight given to these assessment instruments. All this must be described. That means, describe the tools, the processes, which includes the frequency with which the data is collected, and describe how all these are implemented. So, description of this process itself, that is 5 marks. Then the actual recording of the data and computing the attainment of the COs. So, record the attainment of COs of all courses with respect to set attainment levels, that is 20 marks. So, you must show the data collection and then using of the data to compute the attainment of the COs. So, 5 marks for the tools and the processes used. Describe the different assessment tools. As we mentioned, that could be semester end examinations, mid semester tests, laboratory examinations, student portfolios, assignments, group works, team works, take home exercises. There could be a variety of assessment instruments generated for the purpose of gathering the data to compute the attainment of COs. Describe those things, and they must be used to measure the student learning and hence attainment of the course outcomes. And give preferably some examples of each of these items, how frequently they are done and what kind of assessment items are being used. So, list of these assessment tools and processes, 2 marks. Then the quality relevance of the assessment tools and processes used in terms of their ability to capture the attainment of the COs well. So, the quality or relevance of the assessment tools and processes used is with respect to how good they are in terms of computing the attainment of the COs. The visiting team assesses the quality of these things and based on that it awards marks, 3 marks. Okay. Then you must have records of computing the attainment of course outcomes of all courses with respect to the set attainment levels, 20 marks are there. So, program shall set course outcome attainment levels for each course. This again we have discussed in the earlier unit. There are several different ways that we can set the attainment levels, and we have discussed this already in the earlier unit. Measuring CO attainment through continuous internal examinations as well as semester end examinations. All these are all included. All kinds of summative assessments are used to get the data based on which the attainment of the CO can be computed. The target may be stated in terms of percentage of students getting more than class average marks, are set by the program in each of the associated COs in the assessment instruments, midterm test, assignments, mini projects, reports, presentations, etc. as mapped with the COs. There are many other ways. As I mentioned, we have discussed this in a separate unit earlier. So, record the attainment of the course outcomes of all courses, and the evaluation guidelines are verification of the attainment levels as per the benchmarks set for COs of all courses. So, the methodology to define the set levels and its compliance, the data collection, verification, analysis and decision making, the details for one course per year of study to be verified. This can be randomly picked up by the committee. It does not mean that the committee will look at only these files, they may ask for some other file also. We must have this information available for every single course, and if the committee wishes to examine one more course, yes, we must be able to produce that. Okay. But definitely one course per year will be verified by the visiting team. Then finally, we come to the last aspect of assessment, attainment of POs and PSOs. 25 marks are allocated to this. Details of the process for computing the attainments of POs and PSOs. This includes not only from the coursework, but also from the capstone project, any mini macro projects, any other field work in which all the students participate. So, the guidelines how the POs and PSOs are to be computed based on the summative assessment have been discussed in an earlier unit, and that is captured in the criterion 3.8. So, the attainment of POs and PSOs by direct assessment, which is based on the student performance in different summative assessment items, summative assessment instruments, midterm tests, end semester examinations, class tests, etc. Then the PO and PSO attainment can also include an indirect assessment based on the surveys. The surveys could be from the graduating students or from the alumni or from the employers. These survey instruments must be designed carefully so that they do not tax the stakeholders too much, but at the same time they provide reliable and valuable data in terms of their use for computing the attainment of POs and PSOs. So, these above details are to be presented through program level course PO PSO matrices as shown here. That is, various activities listed here, the courses that are available with suitable numbering of course. There could be other activities also, capstone project, mini projects, micro projects, any activities in which all the students are participating, all kinds of activities which are subjected to summative assessment. So, that is all called as a direct attainment, and how they are contributing to the attainment of POs as well as PSOs. Here this table shows only POs, but we include the columns for PSOs as required, 1, 2 or 3, whatever be the PSOs defined by the department. Okay. And these values are filled up in the table, and the column averages are taken to determine the average attainment of the program outcomes as well as program specific outcomes over the entire 4-year period of the program. Okay. So, the direct attainment of PO PSO, a given PO PSO is determined by taking the average across all courses addressing that PO PSO. Then we also have indirect way, as I mentioned, through surveys. So, surveys can be from the graduating students, final year students who have just completed their exams. It can be from alumni, it can be from employers. So, mention the type of survey conducted and the location of its source, where from you are getting that data, and samples of that data also must be made available. Then the indirect attainment level of a PO PSO is determined based on these kinds of surveys. So, graduate exit survey, employer survey, etc., alumni survey, etc. And the direct attainment and indirect attainment, they are combined together to determine the total attainment. Okay. And what is the ratio in which they are combined? There is no hard and fast rule, but typically 80%, 20% has been a very common way of combining these two attainment values. 80% to direct attainment value, 20% to the indirect attainment value. So, this is how the overall PO and PSO attainment value is computed, and this is for the entire program, not for one single course or one single activity, but for the entire program this value must be computed. So, this completes our discussion of the assessment, which is outcome based assessment. So, the evaluation of this will be verification of documents results and the level of attainment of each PO PSO, and assessment of overall levels of attainments. Overall, what is the quality of the institute's teaching learning processes, and what is the quality of the resources provided by it, and to what extent the students are able to attain the POs and PSOs. These all will be examined by the visiting team, and some kind of objective data is available, but there is also a subjective perception of the visiting team regarding all these things. So, further the committee will examine at least 2 levels of POs and 2 levels of PSOs, their attainments, they will see the calculations in detail and they will verify that. So, how all that information available, have 1 or 2 examples worked out in detail showing how the attainment of PO has been computed, how the attainment of PSO has been computed, direct, indirect, how they have been clubbed together, have 1 or 2 very detailed examples available for easily explaining the entire process. The process document must be there, but also have worked out examples available. So, that completes our discussion of outcome based assessment, and in the next unit W8U3 we will look at the SCR requirements of criterion 4 on students performance. That we will discuss in 2 parts, the information that is required regarding the student's performance. So, we will meet again next week with the next unit W8U3. Thank you.